Brian, it's been a wee while since we last spoke. A lot has happened in that time, but we'll go back a little bit to Stuart, Kettlewell and Stevie Frail signing contract extensions. Seems so long ago now, but was that a good news story for the club?
No, I think so. I've been really impressed by Stuart and Stevie since I've come to the club in the last 6 months. And we wanted to try and get something done ideally prior to the start of the season. For everybody's sake, I think. But we managed to get that done. I think it was the first or second week into the season, probably slightly later than I would have liked. But I think it's important that when we have a wee bit of continuity at the football club, and obviously the results speak for themselves in previous weeks. As I say, I've been very impressed with the two of them, how hard they work at the football club. They're here very early in the morning and here very late at night, as the staff on here all know. But they're good types, good people, and they're trying to do everything they possibly can to make sure that the team on the pitch we're always proud of them as possible.
One massive moment since we last spoke was the Friday night under the lights here, the victory in the quarter-final. There was a lot of build-up going into that game. The community were all buying into it, yourself included in that. What was that like to see that firsthand? That
was brilliant, and to be honest, it was the first real sign for me of showing how much the football club and the Welsh Society board work closely together. When we sat down with them when the draw was made and we managed to get it on the Friday night, it was important we shared ideas about how we can try and drive people along to the Friday night fixture. And obviously I think it was our biggest non-old firm attendance for 13 years or something like that, so it was great to see so many supporters come out. And I think you're always concerned when you've got a big home support that's usually when teams fail, but you know, for us to get through that match, and hopefully it was one of these games that will live long in the memory. But it was great. I mean, honestly, the work that was put in by the Welsh Society board, out leafleting, putting posters up in local businesses, and it was just fantastic to see real community spirit, everybody working together and trying to get people back, and hopefully, you know, we can continue that good work going forward.
You mentioned there about people coming back. It was a massive home attendance. How do you go about doing that and trying to draw numbers like that on a more regular basis?
Well, I think that's what the next point is. What can we learn from that? You know, what's the feedback from it, and how can we do that? Not necessarily every single home game, but are there ways that we can do that? And we've been talking to the Welsh Society board, who we speak to almost on a daily basis at the moment, about ideas and how we can do that on a more regular basis, just to make sure that people are aware when the fixtures are, and try and get everybody behind their local community football club, which I keep saying is fan owned. We're in an unusual circumstance in comparison to a lot of them, but hopefully more of the community will start and realise how community driven we are ourselves.
It was a Friday night game. It was classed as a success in terms of attendance and numbers. Is that part of the reasoning behind moving the Kilmarnock fixture in December to the Friday night as well?
Well, I mean, the SPFL asked me about moving the Kilmarnock fixture, and one of the options was 8:15 on the Saturday before Christmas, which wasn't ideal. There was also a lunchtime potential slot too, and I threw the idea of actually the Friday night, you know, on the back of the success of the Dundee United game. That weekend is always notoriously hard to get people along to football. People are Christmas shopping, they've got other things on their mind, and it's probably the lesser of two evils. You know, by playing on the Friday night, hopefully people will come along, and it still leaves a full weekend to do what they need to do and the run up to Christmas the following week. From a football context as well, it's helpful to Stuart and the players, because obviously we play on Boxing Day, so it gives an extra day's recovery too. So listen, there's no ideal scenario, but you know, the Friday night, the feedback we got from a lot of supporters, how much they loved the Friday night under the lights, as we kept going on about, and the experience of it. So hopefully we'll have another good crowd for the Kilmarnock game, and for me it's a better kick-off time than certainly 8:15 on the Saturday night, and potentially lunchtime, which would have taken up most people's days on the Saturday. So there was always a risk to attendance, so it's how you maximise the attendance, and we felt on the balance of it, probably the Friday night was probably the best option. And Premier Sports who hadn't looked at it, or the SPFL, the suggestion was put to them, and Premier Sports were all over it and keen to do it, so it worked for everybody.
There was a bit of criticism from supporters with regards to the semi-final ticketing and the prices of that, as well as the buses as well. What is the process there? How did the decision come about for those prices to be made available?
Well, the SPFL contract, because the money's all pooled when it comes to the semi-final, the two semi-finals have to be the same prices. The 4 clubs have to agree it. My preference was to keep the same prices last year, which, for example, I think the cheapest ticket was £28. There was a movement to potentially look at 30, and I think everybody, the other 3 clubs, obviously have a say, so it's not always a case of what I want goes. I have to be fair to that. The idea was to potentially put up £2 to £30 for the minimum, the cheapest adult price. But what we did get out of that was concessions throughout the stadium, which would help some people. So although £30 maybe seems like more than potentially what it was last year, it is still cheaper than for most of the stands here for a Rangers Celtic game at Fir Park. And obviously the fact it's concessions throughout the stadium, to me, was, not having that didn't make any sense to me when we do it at normal fixtures, throughout the Premiership seasons. Why should it be any different for a cup semi-final? So hopefully that'll help somewhat to those people who are concessions.
Success on the pitch will always bring around the questions with regards to contract extensions and contract situations around players. Where are we at with those who are running out of their contract runs out in the summer?
That's been kind of ongoing. I think I'm a great believer in that once the window closes, which obviously closed the end of August, we start to look at, who's out of contract at the end of the season, who's out of contract before then or whatever, and we look at those players and say, well, who we should be starting to talk to. Obviously, we've got a number of players that are out of contract at the end of the season. Probably not as many as we did this season, or last season, but so there's been a lot of ongoing discussions. These things don't happen overnight. Obviously, you've got to get a feel for the player, and whether the player's open to an extension of contract. Then it's a case of trying to negotiate with agents to try and do the extension. But we're quite hopeful that very, very soon we can hopefully tie a few of them down to just give us a bit of continuity and get that done early.
Just finally as well, Brian, you've mentioned the relationship you've had with the Welsh Society and the ongoing discussions you've had about a number of issues and things going around about the club. What is going on in that world for those that don't know?
I mean, even for example, last week, obviously the Welsh Society put out a candidate pack for those who are interested in either the exec coming on the club board or the Welsh Society board. And I was really pleased that they actually asked me to be part of that panel when we met candidates, if you like. And it was actually really good. I really enjoyed it. It was, we interviewed a really high calibre of people, which I think is really good for the football club and the Welsh Society going forward. So, I think being involved in that, I was really pleased that it's going both ways, that we're both happy to be working with each other. And that's what it's all about. I mean, I keep saying it, we've got the Welsh Society board. My view coming in here was that, there was no working together, and that's what we all want the same thing at the end of the day, which I keep saying, but there's a real close working relationship now between the football club and the Welsh Society board. The Welsh Society board have obviously strengthened their own numbers recently. It's really positive. We had a joint meeting a few weeks ago, and then to be involved in that last week too was great. It's just another sign of how close we work together. We speak to the Welsh Society board probably on a daily basis. They're probably sick of me getting in touch, but I think it's really important that we all want the same thing, as I say, and it's all about close working relationship to try and make things better as much as we possibly can off the pitch.
Thanks for your time, Brian.
Thanks, Scott.